The NBA draft is in the books. Prospects got to fulfill their lifelong dreams of hearing their name called by the commissioner and joining the association. And on a night where the Bulls didn't have a draft pick and things were moving slowly, no traction or transactions for the Bulls trading into the draft, and just when I was about to say, okay, the front office is yet again going to do nothing, wouldn't you know it? They traded into the draft, trading a couple of second rounders according to Shams Charania anyway. The details of the trade haven't been fully revealed yet, but trading with the Washington Wizards to take Julian Phillips 35th overall. The Bulls also picked up Adama Sanogo as an undrafted player, signing him to a two-way deal. So the Bulls making some moves, which is good to see. That said, how do these players fit the mold on this roster, more specifically Julian Phillips? And that's what we'll be talking about in this video. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Real quick, we are nearing 35,000 subscribers, so if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a video, as I'll be covering the Bulls all off-season and season long. But anyway, Julian Phillips, 19-year-old freshman out of Tennessee, 6'8" forward, super athletic, arguably one of the most athletic players of this draft class. I was watching highlight film of this kid, both in his lone season in Tennessee as well as in high school. Has a really good feel for the game, high IQ on the defensive end, knows how to play on and off the ball on defense very well. He's a versatile defender in that he can really defend all positions on the floor. That may change when getting to the NBA level. He could be hard-pressed to defend the 5 against centers that are much bigger than what he's seen at the collegiate level. He's very crafty in poking the ball away from his defender. You can tell that he really is a pest on that end of the floor, which I love. You guys know I'm all about the high-energy guys that put forth maximum effort on both ends of the floor. As it relates to his offense, like I mentioned, super athletic with a quick first step in getting the rim, great finishing touch around the hoop, and because of his size and strength, he can finish through contact and is actually great at drawing fouls and getting to the line. And while I think defense is clearly the man's strong suit and can be an impactful defender right away in the NBA, even at his age, you can also tell that there is upside for his offensive game to improve and become a nice two-way player in the league. But that's where some of the weaknesses lie, and what also makes this selection kind of a head scratcher, because Phillips is not a good shooter. Only shot 24% from 3 in college and on limited volume. His release isn't bad, it's just the shots don't fall. Even shooting from mid-range is pretty meh. And while I do think there is opportunity for him to improve his shooting with the right development and working on his release and shooting motion, it does make you question the pick a little, considering the Bulls had to spend more second rounders to get a second round pick for a non-shooter when the Bulls desperately need shooting. Now, to the front office's credit, they had their eye on this kid and actually had him going in the first round, and they were looking to potentially trade up into the first round to get him just because of how talented he is. A high-level prospect coming out of high school, McDonald's All-American, just didn't have that productive of a season in his freshman year with limited playing time. So I like it from the sense of, yeah, you draft a player with the most potential, get the highest level of talent you can, especially if you think you can get them late in the draft, and if they blossom and flourish into this nice player, that's a player that you can use as an asset to trade further down the line that you were able to snag for pennies on the dollar in the second round. But at the same time, this is very similar to a Dalen Terry level selection. Versatile player that can do a lot, brings a lot of energy, a lot of upside potential, but doesn't really fit a need on this roster. The size is good, Bulls need more wings, they need players that are bigger than 6'7", but I just don't see how you don't look to draft shooters. If again, the goal is to try and still win now, still be competitive now, and not look to blow up the roster. At that point, it's almost like, why even try to trade into the draft if you're not going to get a player of need that can provide an impact on the roster right away? If you're going to add another player that likely isn't going to get playing time like Dalen Terry, and you're not going to develop them, and they don't provide you some shooting, does it make sense to trade multiple second rounders to get them, especially when the Bulls already have such limited draft capital, both in the first and second round going forward? But anyway, I'm going to try and not be too negative because I actually like the pickup based on what I've seen from Julian Phillips. I do think this is a low-risk, high-reward scenario that could certainly pan out. I would have just preferred if they were going to trade into the draft to land a shooter, but as AK said in his press conference shortly after the draft, they plan to address shooting in free agency. Whether they actually do that or not is a different story, but that's what he said. He also said he has the green light from ownership to go into the luxury tax, which I'll believe that when I see it, considering the Reinsdorfs have only gone into the luxury tax once in their entire tenure owning the team since the 80s. But I'll have a separate video out on some of the key takeaways from that press conference, because there was actually a lot to unpack from both that of AK and Mark Eversley. And then as it relates to the guy the Bulls picked up as an undrafted prospect and signed him to a two-way deal, Adama Sanogo, I hope I'm not butchering his name. I'll be honest, I hadn't heard anything about this kid until the Bulls announced they signed him to a two-way deal. I was somewhat familiar with Julian Phillips, but I don't follow college basketball at all. The draft and prospecting is not something I generally keep a close eye on, especially when the Bulls didn't have any draft picks. But after watching some film, I see some potential here. Obviously, played for a championship team, UConn Huskies, was actually a big piece in winning that title. 6'9", 240 pounds, big-bodied player that can get double-doubles easily, at least at the collegiate level. He averaged 17 points per game and 7 rebounds last season. Good footwork and finishing around the rim, but yet again, not a guy who can shoot. Bulls need shooters. But it is a two-way contract player, so it's not likely that he's going to be seeing a ton of time on the floor for the Bulls, but will be playing most of his season for the Windy City Bulls. And who knows, maybe it'll be one of those two-way contract success stories that works their way into the NBA as a solid rotational player like Alex Caruso did. Anyway, those are my initial thoughts and takeaways from these prospects the Bulls picked up on draft night. No major trades or anything like that, as was thought to maybe happen in the Bulls potentially trading into the lottery, more specifically that number 3 pick to land Scoot Henderson, but I think that was always a bit of wishful thinking more than anything. Like I said, I'll have another video out on the takeaways from the Bulls press conference. Free agency is right around the corner, so be sure to subscribe. Until then, guys, I will see you in the next one.